So, good morning everyone, and this is Lorna Argeñal, and I'm going to do my interview with Dr. Eric Vanderberg, and our topic is going to be about agriculture. So, Doctor, in the last, the data that I recompiled, it says that in Latin America there has been a lot of programs that global organizations are capacitating the farmers in order to apply this new system that we know as agroecology. So my first question is going to be, why do you think that agroecology is not being used in our country? It hasn't been developed in other countries.
Well, actually, that's an interesting question, but it's more the reverse. Agroecology is actually more going back to traditional ways of farming and moving away from the modern methods of farming. Basically, what has happened is we have the small subsistence farmer who has lots of different crops and who doesn't use a lot of technology. That's the traditional way to farm. What has happened is large companies have bought up large areas of land. They want to farm it efficiently. They want to farm for profit, to maximize production, and that's what has proven to be non-sustainable. So it's the modern agriculture that has really caused the problem, and the solution is basically to go back to what many farmers have known for hundreds of years. So it's not really that agroecology is new. Most of the ideas and concepts have been around for many years, but now we're going back to them.
Yes. So, what do you think if people start doing and are making back to the traditional way to farm, and they start doing agroecology? Would you think that, because the problem is that people say that agroecology is not sustainable. It's sustainable, but it's not a lot. It's not having the food necessary to combat the hunger around the world. So would you think that agroecology is going to be a solution for the hunger around the world?
I don't see the food production as the issue. Basically, a small farm with multiple products can be just as productive as a large farm. What is different is how much profit you make. To have a small amounts of various crops usually means a little bit, and especially doing it in an organic way without chemicals and so forth, it's not going to be as profitable to have 10 workers on the field as to have one worker with a tractor. Okay, so it's not. So the amount of food produced is not the right question to ask. It's profitability that has the big farmers scared. That, well, we could work the same land in agroecological methods, but I won't make as much profit.
Yeah. So that's a problem, that we're not making a change about the production systems, because we're like.
It's not. There isn't a change in the United States or Europe in the production systems, or at least in the big for the most part. But for places like Honduras in the third world, which have not gone over to the same mechanized agriculture that dominates in the United States, it's much easier to convert.
To start doing agroecology in our country.
Yeah.
So they say that globally the industrial system produces enough food for all the people that is around the world. But the problem is that the distribution of this food is not equal. So the people that benefit from the production are just developing countries, and it's not like in Africa. There's not food in Africa. How do you think that implement agroecology will help the distribution of this food? What will apply?
Okay, agroecology applied properly goes beyond just growing the food. It's also where the food is used. The idea is precisely not to move it halfway around the world, which implies a lot of transport costs and energy inputs. Basically, what needs to happen is countries need to become more self-sufficient by adopting sustainable methods. What has happened in Africa, why they have severe food shortages, is because people cut down the forest, it rains less, they turn it to a desert, and then they go hungry. But that can also be reversed. What we need to do is teach people how to turn the deserts back into productive areas rather than rely on huge shipments of food from Canada, the United States, and Europe. The function of the industrialized countries is not to feed all the underdeveloped countries, but rather the underdeveloped countries need to become self-sufficient, which will be which will help them in the long term, because as long as they're depending on other countries for the food, that means they're in debt and their economy is in trouble.
So, I know you have a farm in Nicaragua that is using the system of agroecology. So would you tell me what would say a particular benefit for having this system in your farm?
Part of it is personal satisfaction. It's fun to grow eat the food you grew, but it's also healthy because I know what's in the food and that there are no chemicals that are going to potentially affect my health. Usually the chemicals that are used have gotten some sort of official approval, but we don't really know about long-term effects until much later, like in the case of DDT. It was approved, it was all okay, until years later we find out it's not. If you look at the field right here that the students are gardening their little patch, look at all the chemicals that go into that little patch. I'm not sure I would like to eat that food knowing all the chemicals that are being sprayed there. Okay? If I were going to do it as a student, I would say, don't spray this patch here, leave it, and if I get maybe a little bit less crop or whatever, I'm okay with that, but I want to be able to eat the food that I produce.
So you say it's for healthy and for satisfaction for yourself?
Those are my personal reasons.
Okay. So do you think that here in Zamorano we can apply this method to produce agriculture?
Yes. It can be done, and the first attempt is using the new agroecological farm and module. Unfortunately, we got the worst land that Zamorano had, the land that was simply not suited for any other form of agriculture. Okay? So it would be a lot easier and a lot more successful if we had fertile soil to begin with. Right now it's a slow process because we're starting with the soil where you can grow practically nothing, and we have to improve the soil. We have to find ways of watering the crops that don't require a lot of irrigation, because the idea is to make it sustainable. It can be done, and we're busy trying to prove that it can be done. But it's not easy when you start with the land where regular agriculture didn't work.
Yes. So, we're talking about the problems from the environment, the climate change, and all the things that industrial production is just causing degradation of soils, degradation, change of the climate. Do you think that agriculture is going to be a solution for these environment problems?
It's not a solution, it's the solution. It's really the only viable way forward because it's the only thing that's sustainable in the long run. Now, when I say it's the only thing, that doesn't mean there is one technique that is going to work everywhere. Basically, it's a general concept that needs to be applied in specific ways in different places.
So, it will say is the solution for having the problems from the environment. So, if we have like the potential to establish a politic that says that agriculture is going to be the system for the production, would you think that that might help the like the country is going to accept to produce for the system, or is just going to reject it?
For the most part, small farmers are very quick to accept whatever works. From a government policy, okay, you mentioned one thing early on and you said it's the solution for the environment. No, it's not the solution for the environment because there's still problems with deforestation and other issues. It's a solution for food sustainability, for being able to feed the large and growing human population worldwide in the long term. Right now, we have plenty of food to feed everybody, to more than feed everybody, and part of the problem is distribution, and part of the problem is is worse, that we waste a lot of food. It's definitely the way forward for a sustainable future, is the way I would put it.
Okay. And how would you convince the country of this in this system? What would you say
Okay.
it's going to be?
Basically, what works best there, for the small farmer, seeing that it works, but to encourage people to take what they might see as a risk, like, well, I'd like to do it, but what if things go wrong? There should be government incentives and government support. Okay? So right now, the government spends billions of dollars supporting corn growers and big farms and industries like the dairy industry and so forth. And if there's no market for all the milk that's produced, the government buys it. And if there's no market for the overproduction of corn, the government still buys it. So a lot of that government spending shouldn't be used to help the large farmers that are doing the wrong thing. They should be used to help the small people do the right thing.
So you think that the government is part of the problem?
Yes?
It's making bad decisions.
It's making bad decisions because the large farms have become so wealthy, so powerful, that they are controlling the government.
Yes, definitely. As we see on your class, we see the video from food
Food Incorporated.
Incorporated says that the companies, and so we see how Monsanto has a lot of people that works in the government, says all the
Exactly.
politics, and so that's what we have, what happens in our country. So, to end this interview, what would you say is gonna be? How would you start doing a change and start making the people to think agriculture as the sustainable system?
I think the best way to is the same way that that the public has grown aware of climate change, the media. Basically, the more people hear about it and the more people are educated about it, the more likely you are to achieve change. If the government just passes laws, obscure laws, nobody's going to pay attention. If the government starts offering monetary incentives that if you are going to protect the forest or go to a multi-crop system, the government's going to give you some money to help you, and that works.
So, thanks, Mr. Vandenberg.
Okay, you're very
It was
welcome.
a pleasure. Thanks.